Okay. So before we get started, this is just like a 5 or 6 minute interview. Just try and see if I can do the 5-stage interview, which we're learning in class. I was hoping to ask you, I mean, I've known you for a few years, but I don't know exactly what you do. And I just wanted to know if you could tell me a little bit what you do on a day-to-day basis.
I am a deputy prosecuting attorney at the King County Prosecutor's Office, and that means that we are the prosecutorial agency for King County.
Okay.
And so we are vested with the ability to charge people with felony crimes in King County. And what I currently do is I work in our sexually violent predator unit. I've worked in our homicide unit. I headed up our domestic violence unit, and before that I specialized in domestic violence and sexual assault of children for prosecution. So if police respond to a case, they write up a police report, they then refer that into our office, and a prosecutor in our office will review the police report and determine whether or not charges will be filed. Once charges are filed, then it's our responsibility to bring the case to some kind of resolution, either through plea or through trial, and then to sentence the individual.
So it sounds like you went through, a lot of different areas in the King County's system, right?
You do. When you start in our office, you typically start in what's called district court, which is where you prosecute misdemeanors. I then went to our juvenile court, which is where you prosecute juvenile offenders. I went to felony mainstream, it's called, where you prosecute any crime that's not domestic violence or sexual assault. I went to our domestic violence unit, then I went to our sexual assault unit, then I vice chaired our domestic violence unit, and then chaired our domestic violence unit, and then went to homicide.
Would you say that you have like a favorite part, or like the most memorable part, or something that?
I think, for most of the years I was in homicide, it probably was my favorite.
Homicide?
And that was unique because for our homicide unit, because they're the most, in some ways, important cases in our office, we had a unit of 7 attorneys that you're on call. If a homicide occurs in King County, law enforcement calls one of our prosecutors out to the scene, and so you're involved from the very beginning in helping with the investigation to make sure that things are legally done correctly and that you're up to speed on the case at all times.
So you like being involved from the very beginning to the very end, seeing resolution?
I do, and I really, in some ways I wish maybe I would have been a detective or gone that route, and I really enjoy that kind of hands-on, street level interviewing of witnesses, working with witnesses.
Is this something you saw yourself doing when you were younger? I mean, how did you get into this in the first place?
I don't know. I my freshman year I went to college and I wanted to be a preschool teacher. So I was in early child development, and then I switched colleges my sophomore year, and I don't think it was really towards the end of college that I decided that I would go to law school. And it was some professors that said, by then I was doing well in school, you should consider it. So I went, and then in law school I worked in bankruptcy the entire time until after my 3rd year, and then on a whim I did an externship with the King County Prosecutor's Office and was kind of hooked.
So it just kind of happened on accident.
Yeah.
So you went to school going to be a preschool teacher.
Yep.
And then ended up working in homicide.
Yep.
Okay. If you had, I guess, one piece of advice you'd want to give someone going into this field, what would it be?
I think take comfort. There's so much competition in law, but take comfort in the fact that if you do a good job and you treat people well and you act professionally, you're going to be successful. You're going to be fine. And I teach at the University of Washington Law School, and one thing I try to tell people is to keep your people skills. I mean, just because you become an attorney doesn't mean that you should forget the basics of. I think in a jury trial litigation, it's really your manners and how you treat people that help you succeed. And whenever you interview witnesses or whenever you work on a case, you work with detectives or whomever, so much of it is just that interpersonal communication.
What would you say has been one of like, the biggest challenges, or both challenges and rewards from this job?
I think the challenge probably is the workload.
Workload?
You know, my family, and I've given up a lot of my life for work without being compensated for it. I mean, like it wasn't, I have not gotten rich doing this job with money, but I feel rich in other ways. And, but I think, you know, for me, the biggest reward for me has just been the opportunity to deal with